Before the video even starts, yes, my car is unorganized and I have a McDonald's bag in my passenger from an Egg McMuffin I was eating. Deal with it.
Suffering is not your punishment. It is just your barrier to entry. Let me say that again. Pain is not your punishment. It is just your barrier to entry. If you can't handle a little bit of pain, man, you're not ready for this life. You're not ready to be given the gifts that are right for the taking that God set out for you. You know, on that journey of excellence, of greatness, whatever you might be pursuing, there's gonna come a point in time, multiple points in fact, where you're gonna start to question whether or not it's worth it. You're gonna have to sacrifice so much in fact, where damn near you wanna go back. You wanna go back to the old way of living. You wanna go back to that version of yourself that was comforting. That version that really knew what was going to happen and already had the plan set out. But let me tell you, that life is not for you, man. That life is the mediocrity trap. It's the path of least resistance. You follow the path of least resistance, you're gonna get trapped to be the most average dude that ever existed. You wanna be average? You wanna be just like everybody else that's out here participating in the same degenerate acts, activities, smoking, drinking, you know, lustful desires, acting them out, living with aimlessness, you know, living day to day with no direction, nothing to look forward to, just to get to the weekend, just to fuck it off. And excuse my language in this video, but you guys need to see my true character, my full authenticity. And yes, I still believe in God, and yes, I still have flaws. I'll put them on display for you guys on purpose because I'm no better than the next person. Just because I have this chain hanging from my car does not mean that I reduce Christ down to a medallion on a freaking gold chain that I wear around my neck. Look, I'm gonna tell you a little story. Back to about a year ago, around this time of year, coincidentally, it's November at the time that I'm filming this, when I hit rock bottom. I got stripped of everything, bro. I didn't have a job. I was broke as hell. Now, to me, having less than 10 racks inside my bank account is broke to me, okay? But that's just because of the standard that I've held for so long and how keen I've been on managing my finances. But look, the point is, more money was leaving my account than was coming in. And I had just fumbled a job that was really fell into my lap right after I had got my trucker's license. And like an idiot, I had fumbled it. You know, just didn't see myself doing that line of work, even though I didn't even see the process through like I should have, and just kind of let go of it. So me thinking that that kind of opportunity, another one, was gonna fall right back into my lap, I was sadly mistaken. It took me a long time to get back on my feet. I had just funneled so much energy, time, and money into getting a Class A CDL, which is no easy task, mind you. I was under the age of 21, so it was a struggle for me to get jobs. For those that don't know, in that line of work, you have to be over 21 because when you first get experience, they want you to go out of state, and unless you're over 21, you can only drive interstate, and those are very sought after jobs. So people with more experience and more background usually take precedent over somebody like myself, fresh out of trucking school. It sent me down a depressive spiral that got worse and worse and worse. I was medicating myself heavily with weed every single day. I would smoke in and out from the moment I woke up to before I ate, before I drove, before I went to sleep, before I hung out with my girlfriend. Every single moment of the day I was high. High became my new norm. And that wasn't really the problem. The problem really started to take hold when the Keisha, the weed, wasn't helping anymore. It's the first time I ever experienced it. The weed was actually making my depression worse. It made it so bad, in fact, that when I would pick up the joint or pick up my pen, I would start to pity myself. I would start to feel bad for all the mistakes I had made, and I'm still over here acting like I have the leeway to still be smoking weed. I'll take a hit and it would amplify the negative thoughts in my mind 10x. And I started experiencing depersonalization disorder. I didn't feel real at all. I would have these visual flurries that I thought were like a symptom of some kind of like neurological disorder I had, or like, heaven forbid, I thought I had diabetes because my mom has it, and all these different assumptions I was making, when that wasn't the extent of the symptoms. I couldn't even hold a conversation with people because I was almost like impersonating the conversation. I was like trying to keep it afloat, knowing damn near I didn't want to talk to you, knowing I didn't even care for what was even being said right now. I wanted to die. No exaggeration. I couldn't even listen to my music because I didn't even, I felt like I was punishing myself. I felt like I wasn't even deserving to listen to the type of music that gave me the energy that made me feel uplifted. Completely sabotaged my hygiene. Wasn't even looking for more jobs. Would just vegetate in my room for days and days and days. Wasn't hitting the gym. Wasn't eating. It was bad, guys. It was real bad. I was having suicidal ideation when I would drive down the road and see a semi-truck, which would connect those two parts of my brain and relive the same mistake over and over and over again, to the point where I'm like, bro, I hope a semi-truck just swerves into my lane and just like takes me out of my misery. Which at that point in time, you know, I was essentially living for other people, because I knew if anything had happened to me, man, it'd devastate the people around me. So I couldn't even get close to imagining myself not being here, even though it was all I would think about. Point is, that time was one of the most transformative experiences I could have ever had. Why? Because it gave me insight to my true character. It allowed me to discover the parts of my psyche that have yet to be found. And you know, I've lived the majority of my life with harsh experiences, with things that I had to overcome, but none as bad as that. You know, I grew up back and forth from households, living with my mom and my dad for custody reasons, literally flying on airplanes by myself from the age of like 6 years old across 1,000 miles from New Hampshire to Cali and back and forth, usually spending about a year and some change with one of my parents, going out to different schools because they always lived in different areas. No exaggeration, I've probably been to over like 15 schools minimum, easily, maybe even more. But I grew up in a way that allowed me to really have a lot of mental resilience. But when I was 20 years old and I went through that experience of really feeling like I was worthless and having nothing, it showed me that when you place so much credence, so much precedent on one thing, where you feel like your life is put into something, like I did, where I really thought, you know, getting my trucker's license was gonna completely revolutionize the way I lived, because other than that, you know, I worked from bullshit warehouse jobs to fast food and everything in between, where I was just tired of it. And I knew I had to stop being complacent. So then I made that jump and I still failed. I was actually in a seemingly worse position than I was before, because I paid like almost $6,000 to get it done. 3 to 4 months of my life gone just to not even have anything to show for it afterwards devastated me. Absolutely took me out. Like, I couldn't handle it, guys. It took me like almost a half a year to even recover from it. And even then, I wasn't even fully recovered. I was just kind of maintaining. And by the time where I got a new job, which is where I work still to this day, it was a gradual process into confirming my mind's belief that I was in fact worth something, that I was making effort to change my life. And today, I got extended the opportunity to work for a far better company that doesn't have any of that past negativity and all that energy attached to my suicidal self that really came about by chance. And had I not experienced that initial bit of pain, I probably would have never started coaching. I probably would have never put myself online raw like I do right now, which made me an exceptional version of myself that is still steadily growing and expanding his mind and his body and spirit, which is why I believe that God purposefully put me through that process, because it refined me. It stripped away a lot of the notions that I believed to be true beforehand. I literally thought I was invincible before, guys, because I always was able to bounce back from situations and actually end up better. But this was one of the first times in my life where I actually just plain up failed. And dealing with failure and coming back from the edge now is a skill that I have gained, because failure is only a prerequisite to success. The faster you can fail, the faster you can win. And I really mean this. Anything that you might pursue, you're most likely going to suck at it at first, and you're going to encounter many different failures in many different forms. But if you allow it to dictate your decisions, therefore after, you will never, ever, ever even approach fear in the eyes and look at the life of your dreams and really harness the energy that and the intensity that it takes in order to move towards your goals. Goals, everybody has them. But what are your standards, Brody? What do you deem as non-negotiable? Everybody has weaknesses, and you're lying to yourself right now if you say that you don't have any, or that you don't know what they are, because you willingly fall into them damn near every single day. And the times where you resist temptation and you know what is likely to happen before it even happens, and you subvert it, and you subtract yourself from the battle entirely, man, that is a level of discipline and emotional intelligence that many people never achieve. And these are things that you should know, and you should be applying, no less, sooner than later, because otherwise you're gonna live your entire life with an immense amount of regrets when you turn into a bitter old man or woman, and you're gonna wish that you had at least done what you knew you were supposed to do from the jump, because everything is gonna be difficult. Being broke is difficult, bro. Trying to become rich is difficult, but I'll choose rich any day. And riches applies to many more things than just money. It applies to wealth in terms of relationships, compassion, love for yourself, the richness of simplicity, and being able to love and express gratitude for the small things in life. All of these things are very hard to come by naturally. And close my door real fast just to subtract the noise. But all of these aspects are qualities of a truly exceptional individual, and through repetition you can learn to be successful, because anybody can manage an average life. Anybody can manage having nearly nothing, but having abundance, having something to lose, people to care for, a life that you wish to come to fruition, now that is something that takes skill to hone in and harness. And you must put in the reps. There is no shortcuts. No matter how much you think that there is some kind of easy way out, or some kind of book that you have yet to read, or podcast or mentor that you haven't listened to yet, that's gonna get you to that other side, you're sadly mistaken, my guy. Unfortunately, God will not allow you to take shortcuts, because they literally don't exist. You have to be put through the crucible. You have to be put through the fire, metaphorically, before you can be the kind of person that is able to manage the life of your dreams. Because I'll take, for example, a man or woman that wins the lottery. Didn't have to work for it. It was just given to them on a silver platter, and they didn't have to learn anything in order to gain that kind of wealth. It is statistically proven that they are more likely to absolutely obliterate every dollar that they had within the first year than it is for them to grow it, invest it, maintain it, and actually manage it. Why? Because you must learn skills along the way and actually work for your life. You must put in the effort, because otherwise you will not understand the importance of what you have. And when I was a little kid, I didn't understand the importance of the gifts that my parents used to buy me sometimes, or the small gestures that my folks went out of their way to show me that they loved me, even though they came far and few in between. You know, it didn't really come to my mind until I became an adult how much it takes for somebody to be generous, because you are essentially giving up a part of yourself in exchange for really nothing, or at least you should be expecting nothing in return. Otherwise, all of your generosity has strings attached, which really means that you shouldn't even have given anything of yourself at all in the first place, if that is the perspective that you're looking at it from. Because the more value you give without expectation of payment to be received, the more you will actually receive. He who does more than what he is paid for will soon be paid for more than what he does. That's a quote from Napoleon Hill, the author of Think and Grow Rich. Great book. Not my all-time favorite book. If you've made it this far in the video, I would actually recommend you to read one book in particular called Reality Transurfing. There is about a 2 to 3 hour long audiobook read out loud by George Stoitsev on YouTube, which I will drop the link as well when I post this, which is really the only book that you will ever need. That, along with a book called The Go-Giver. That book was recommended to me by one of my good friends, and its principles ring so true to what I'm speaking about right now. I digress. This video is gonna be dropped as soon as possible, for the simple fact that anybody who may come across it needs to have any principles that resonate with them instilled and solidified in their heart today. Not tomorrow, not when you decide to actually change, immediately. Do what is required and you will have whatever reward of your choosing when due time comes. You know, I used to fantasize so much about my dream life, about the cars that I want to have, about the gifts that I want to buy my folks, if I ever became wealthy, about the crazy lifestyle that I could imagine would come with success. But see, that's the thing. I was fantasizing about it. I was looking at it from the perspective of if it happened. The truth is, if you live in such congruence with the person that you're trying to become, you essentially walk around with a sliver of that success every day. No longer does it feel like you are chasing anything, but in fact, you are attracting everything. Because why would you chase anything that you already have? If you felt like you were doing exactly what you were supposed to be doing on a day-to-day basis, success is inevitable. You don't have to question whether or not it will come, but whether you are willing to take the leap of faith and deal with the pain that it comes with is in your hands. So I'm gonna leave the video off with that. Remember, as always, put your faith in the Lord above all else. Not saying you have to profess your faith to Christianity just because I do, but I made my own educated decision for my own reasons and my own application of the truth that the Bible speaks and how I've seen it transform my own life and the lives around me. I know for a fact it is the truth. But don't take it from just me. Go and make your own choice based on your own logic. Much love, and I'll catch you on the next video.